little bit late, 25 minutes. Had a little chat. I was actually asking Daniel for the delegations on my Cosmos validator. Yeah, but this is actually real. Like, please do help. I'm on the bottom. If you in the position, I shouldn't put you in this spot when we go live and I asking this, but
Which
yeah, you
chains?
Cosmos. I'm number
Just
175. Yeah, just very bottom one. I guess I'm dropping in few days unless someone comes and help me. But well, it's probably good chain to be on. Um, Regarding the future and Cosmos 2.0, I guess. But this is Daniel Hwang, a person very well known for different engagements in the community, not only Cosmos, I would say, but recently mainly Cosmos. Um, Probably known as the someone who was part of the StakeFish, and very active in the governance discussion about validators. So, like, if you don't mind me just asking for introduction of yourself, what's your background? How did you come to crypto?
Yeah, sure. It's kind of long, if that's okay. I can give
It's
you the
fine.
TLDR version. Um, so, if anyone remembers, I used to work at a law firm, and I actually rage quit a law firm in 2013. Um, but yeah, I had a Tyler Durden moment where I was like, down with the banks. So if anyone remembers, in 2012 there was a big congressional hearing against HSBC, right? You're in Hong Kong, right? Or in China?
Hmm. But
The
back then
big,
was in UK, and it was very. I think back then I was in UK, but yeah, both places. The bank has headquarters in both places. So
yeah,
yeah.
and HSBC had been caught with aiding money laundering with Mexican drug cartels and terrorist financing in the Middle East. And the law firm I was at, we were defending them, and there was a big congressional hearing where the government is investigating them, and then saw all the everything under the hood. And so it was a quite morally questionable moment for me, and I couldn't consciously still stay there. I was like, life is short. This is what I'm contributing to society. I need to. It's not worth it. So I left, and that's when I had like sort of my friend was like, "Hey Daniel, I know you want to like, quote unquote, take down the banks. There's this thing called Bitcoin. Let's start mining it and contributing." And this is like, Bitcoin was no price that like, and we were just doing it because we wanted to contribute. Um, and that's kind of like how it got started. I ended up a little later in the Philippines doing relief work, and I was working with an NGO, and I ended up building a small like community learning center, and met a lot of the people in this small fishing village who were working abroad, the women, and they were like
Hmm.
sending money back and getting fleeced on fees. And I was like, hey, like, let me help you. You don't have to pay all these fees. There's this amazing thing called cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And so I started helping with remittances. Um, Eventually I came back to America, and um, I was doing research in the bioinformatics field, specifically with supporting their cluster systems in this lab. I had actually my first undergrad was in biology and comparative religions. I actually studied voodoo uh, stuff, but it's all over the place. But then
That's very
I
long. That you have like really. We are at like 2014 now, and that's already really impressive life resume. It's like what? How old were you? Like 26, HSBC
Like
employee.
22, 23. Yeah. Um,
Well, even yeah.
but and then so I came back to America. Like I had decent amount of technical knowledge because I was just like running my own machines and stuff, and I was helping with the cluster system in the bioinformatics lab I was at because I had some background in biology. And then I just got another degree in computer science, so I got a second undergraduate degree in computer science because I was doing that. I was working full time at the lab, and then I just took classes at the lab because the lab was on the
Hmm.
uh, university campus. And then I ended up doing permission blockchain stuff for big pharma. Surprisingly, it was a
Which
dark
pharma
path.
was it? Which companies?
I worked at Roche and Genentech. I
Nice.
first did signal
Yeah.
processing research for Roche on their uh, genetic sequencers, and then I ended up at Genentech uh, and doing supply chain sample management pilots with Hyperledger Fabric that IBM had been supporting at the time.
Hmm.
And that was like most difficult chain to work with, and just didn't work. I ended up going to grad school, an opportunity to go study at Hopkins, and particularly with Matt Green, the guy who helped create Zerocoin that became Zcash. And
Hmm.
so I focused on cryptography there. I continued my distributed systems research. And so he advised my thesis, which I wrote on like the evolution of hybrid consensus mechanisms from like a centralized to decentralized setting. Um, so had the opportunity to work with like do research with Dahlia Malki, who ended up setting up Novi at Facebook because she was doing some stuff at VMware on like on Rapid, which is like a centralized distributed systems uh, concept. And then after grad school, I joined a layer one blockchain, which I left quickly, and then joined StakeFish and F2 Pool, where I had headed the protocols team at StakeFish and then led special projects at F2 Pool. Um,
Hmm.
I'm no longer with those two companies, but I still contribute. I lead a working group in the validator ecosystem called Validator Commons, where we specifically sort of coordinate and collaborate on industry sort of standards and frameworks, do information sharing for best practices and policy research with like helping evolve and guide the governance ecosystem. And I also set up the blockchain infrastructure carbon offset working group, which is sort of a protocol agnostic working group to help sort of set up
Hmm.
sort of climate problems and solve them across industry. So I actually spent like a week in Greenland a few weeks ago. So we had Greenpeace, some of like the UN collaborators like Ripple, Solana, Regen, Cosmos, right? Basically, all these climate solutions are not all going to exist on just one blockchain, particularly if there's going to be like real world assets that are moved on the
Hmm.
chain. It's not only going to be on. So we had to have like this interoperability and composability standards that needed to exist sort of agnostically. So
Yeah.
we're actually having a climate conference in a few weeks in an hour away from Medellin, right after the Cosmoverse conference. And so we're having like, the carbon registries like Vera, Greenpeace, UN collaborators, Regen, right, all the usual suspects to do that. But so those are sorry, that was a long story, but those are some
It's
of the.
fine.
It actually
Uh,
also built the DEX back in 2018,
which
um,
one?
a decentralized exchange. So not it was a relayer. So I'd gotten a grant from 0x Protocol to build like these hyper localized uh, relayers in Korea and Japan. It's called
Hmm.
BabelDex and the Cordex specifically. Uh, so okay, sorry, that's a lot of the random stuff I had
No,
done.
it's fine. It's fine. Like I actually saw. I know the thing in Colombia. You are going to go. I spoke with Lola Labs a few days ago. I had
Yeah,
a
yeah. So
private chat with
great.
them, and he sent me the page of the event, and I saw, oh, Daniel Hwang, and there was like also Greg from Regen. So he's actually connecting me with Deb from Altia. I guess that's how I should pronounce it. She also built Gravity Bridge. I guess you know, and also with Greg. So actually, there will be some videos about the commons, about public good protocols, and about carbon offset. I guess. You did mention pharma. Um,
Yeah.
it's surprising that the blockchain was like they were looking into blockchain so early on, because I do remember ICOs in 2017. There was quite some like maybe not pharma blockchains, but there was few chains that were like
Healthcare.
medical chains, and they all
Yeah.
collapsed. Like it was all ragging like left and right. And till now, we still don't have any like, there is no biotech companies utilizing um drug discovery or anything, and I myself doubt if it's even possible, like
Yeah.
because
So yeah,
yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. I in it in pharma, I was specifically leading the pilot efforts for um, uh, in the strategic innovation group and strategic innovation analytics group. But um, this is all like permission chains, not public ICO
Yeah.
kind of stuff. They didn't want a token, and we were just doing like some consortium stuff with other competing pharmaceutical
Hmm.
companies. Um, Specifically to the healthcare type of so I was leading a working group with the IEEE, which is like an engineering standards body, on health data uh, presence on potential chains.
Hmm.
And this is specifically around the time when Europe um, made public the whole GDPR sort of selective privacy standards. So that, right, it actually, if you're familiar with NewCipher had like sort of proxy re-encryption standards, and I'd won some money from them to like kind of build some stuff uh, around the healthcare side of things. But yeah, I mean, it's if we bring it to Cosmos, like one of the biggest things that I've held ideas I've held for a while, I guess for like the past 5-6 years now, is that like the with the work that I had also been doing in uh, at Genentech, was that you can have this really great opportunity for, let's say, hub and zones, for
Hmm.
industry specific hub and zones, right? Like obviously like Cosmos Hub is like the center, but right, having a zone be a pharma's chain that tracks their own sample management. The reality is that a lot of pharmaceutical companies, let's say they're doing cancer drug clinical trials, they don't all have in-house sort of steps along the way for the sample's lifetime.
Hmm.
They actually use contract research organizations that are shared between different pharmaceutical companies, and so like there's like a measure of data sharing that's required for them to
Hmm.
sort of interoperate. And right, it's a great example of like kind of applying the hub and zone thesis to that, where you can have a competitive industry, you can have different chains that zones and app chains that represent like the different organizations, and then they have like a hub that they kind of right
Hmm.
interact with. So, which is something that I found fascinating. It's just like we weren't there yet, but I think now, looking forward in the future, right, we have much more enticing sort of thesis for a lot of these industries, not just like the pharmaceutical industry, but a lot of large industry that can use this, especially for the type of interoperability that can be provided. And then what's amazing about it um, is that, right, the technological innovation of IBC that allows everything to connect, especially the type of composability that can happen if you're in a specific domain, right? Let's say in the healthcare domain, you have the ability to connect immediately to like other chains that are not related um, to your domain, right? it's the nature of composability, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you have the same sort of way to communicate with DeFi or like art, so like art chain. Like if there's like an NFT sort of specific chain or not. So it's quite it's something I've a desire and interest that I've held for
Mm-hmm.
quite some time, which is exciting. I think.
I do feel like maybe like we do with the like biotech chains in like wrong way, because like everyone was thinking how to disrupt pharma industry, which is like totally wrong. Like it's maybe better to think how you can contribute to this, because despite what many people thinks, I do think that like pharmaceuticals in US and also organizations who overlook the not discovery, but like the approving drugs FDA, like are really like good organizations. Maybe I'm wrong, uh, but like I'm not sure if was it a year ago or 2 years ago, the AI like regarding the protein folding was able to predict the protein folding, and this sort
Yeah,
of use
yeah.
I see like, oh, maybe this is where blockchain could help, right? Like because you can
Distributed
with the block,
computing. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like you can do the open source platform where people can like contribute to the drug discovery and run maybe different probabilities. Like I'm not sure if I get the right wording, but I would rather think, hey, this would be good, where people actually can you know um how would you
Be
say this, like
incentivized to run hardware into
virtual
like,
screening workflows. You have it right.
yeah, yeah.
Design
We
of
used to
the
have something
drug,
like that.
yeah. So
It was
but
called Golem, but
mhm.
it didn't succeed. I was
um
maybe too early.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm looking now. I don't know if anything will be out of this. Does the name Martin Shkreli says anything to you?
Didn't he? I think he
He's
follows me on
out.
Twitter.
He's
Yeah, but
out.
like, yeah,
I do enjoy listening to him. I listened to him before he went to prison, and now kind of, well, there are different opinions, but I think he does say like you can learn a lot, and he started this company now, drag like. I'm not sure if you were able to see it. I sent you just
drug
now on
line,
Twitter.
the generics. Yeah.
Yeah, so he started blockchain company, that
Oh,
democratize access to the drug discovery, and um, it's powered by some like Ethereum tokens, which is probably irrelevant. But this one like caught my interest, that maybe it will be something, because I would assume he's banned probably from the pharma world somehow.
interesting.
Um, yeah, I thought maybe you would be interested in this, to have a look actually, because if you did study biology, you would probably know more. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I actually studied, um, specifically. I was like doing plant bacteria, and then human gut bacteria. But
mhm.
yeah, I studied so many random different things, but yeah, it's fascinating. Thanks for sharing that. It's pretty cool.
Hmm. Yeah. And I know there was, and he's like he created token Martin Shkreli, which is like, but
Yeah,
which is
no comment.
apparently,
That was that was not
yeah, that
good.
wasn't good. But the drag like part looks okay, because I do believe he has like really good intentions. I don't think he's evil man. I don't think like the people in his positions are really driven by like anything like this. And I do think he rather would like to contribute. Um, but
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with necessarily being like a mercenary, right? Like if the
mhm,
market allows you to do things, you can, right? Like MEV folks and arbitrage, they're mercenaries, right?
mhm,
Not everyone can be like a missionary like Antonopoulos, right? You
mhm,
have to have a balance between, like, if you have all mercenaries, then you lose the ideology. If you have all missionaries, you
Hmm.
lose sort of the efficiencies that the market can gain from that. But yeah, you have to have a balance. You can't have one without the other, I think. Maybe just like a existential reality of like
Hmm.
good and evil. There can always be like this
Yeah.
balance.
Can you tell me, because like um started watching Siri recommended by someone, Halt and Catch Fire. Um
Oh, I love that. Yes, I watched the first season, first two
so
seasons.
started
Amazing.
watching it, and was it there about computers, right? There was the in first episode, the chat about computers, and that are we here just to make the, accounting machines, and this is about something more, something bigger. So my question to you is like, are we just going to discover new forms of banking that is probably even worse than the banks are right now, which I'm saying DeFi, which is full of, I'm sorry for saying that, for grifters, run by people with no economic background, uh, you know, um, where the masses do think that the value is created via like just issuance of new tokens and stuff like this, or we with the blockchain are able to create something bigger, right? So are we creating just new accounting machines, or are we going out there and there is the areas of the whether economy or the human life technology that could be actually improved here?
Yeah, I'm personally an idealist,
Hmm.
but I also do understand like there's practical realities that need to
Hmm.
exist. I actually had this very conversation last night. I mean I was in a conference in DC, and it was great. Like it was a very different conference because it was all like regulators and like former
Hmm.
regulator. Like I was on a panel with the former chief of the OECD, and I was actually having this conversation with them about, right, there's a lot of the regulators, believe it or not, are actually open to sort of collaborating and not being so restrictive on innovation. Um, and it's also telling because we see other parts of the industry in the traditional world uh, understanding that there needs to also, from let's say American regulator perspective, supporting innovation, and it perhaps had gotten to a certain point where even we had these large venture capital funds like Andreessen Horowitz that even had
Hmm.
to set up a specific team, right, called it was geared towards American dynamism, right, like make American industry and innovation great again kind of
Hmm.
situation. And especially with like such new and impactful technology as cryptocurrency can be that live on blockchains, right, you're also talking on a global stage. But specifically to the type of, right, are we just making accounting machines? It's some people obviously at the conference, and then the conversations we had were like we have to be practical, and then which means that you have to be like think a lot smaller and think
Hmm.
shorter term. Um, but my response to that was that if you don't have like the whole like greenfield idealism of like what can be possible on these new platforms, you're never going to have the ability to have your mind be able to think about that type of innovation. And a key point of what cryptocurrencies and then the blockchains they live on can can provide to the world is that innovation space that makes use of like strong guarantees of decentralization, self-sovereignty, censorship resistance, corruption resistance,
Hmm.
immutability or selective immutability. um, and and that's clearly true as like a very specific example of the climate ecosystem, where for example let's even go even more specific within the climate ecosystem's umbrella of ecological benefits, where like carbon credits are one
Hmm.
small part of the ecological benefits ecosystem, but like carbon credits themselves in the traditional world have a very limited use case where, right, you can just use it. You can buy like discrete amounts. The moment that they came on and were tokenized into crypto onto the blockchain, excuse me, was not only can you just use them for offsetting, but you can compose them. You can attach them to NFTs. You can put them into like vaults and treasuries. You can have derivative assets that represent them. You can have them provide liquidity and have people in a more democratic fashion contribute to the liquidity of that and get earn money. You can create like time locked NFTs that like can happen programmably. You can have these NFTs like be, you know, separated into shards. You can have them like go get attached to like a wrapped Bitcoin and create green Bitcoin. And there's so many more things that were never even possible on the financial and then the traditional system that we had in the real world, that cryptocurrency from a point of interoperability and composability provides, right? And then with innovation comes new opportunities to solve problems that we've had and been struggling with before. Speculation is not necessarily only a mercenary thing, but it's a tool that can be used to really incentivize the right type of behavior, specifically if you can define that behavior and integrate it into that. A really good example of why, and specifically in crypto, right, this incentive, like good behavior cannot rely on altruism. It has to be incentivized. And that's, I think, one of the also like the big parts of what cryptocurrency has allowed people to kind of think of things. I'll use the Bitcoin consensus example because I think this is like the age-old first kind of example where it was like Bitcoin's consensus mechanism, like miners don't necessarily care too much about, right, decentralization, or right, maybe before we did, like in the early days, but nowadays it's all very big capex kind of stuff, right? Even though they don't care about the ideological principles of cryptocurrency and the blockchain Bitcoin network, they're paid, right? And they will download the software, and because the community values it, right, they engage in this, right, very capital heavy enterprise, even though they don't believe in the network, but they'll still secure the network because of the fact that they get rewarded in Bitcoin, and then they can pass it on and sell it to someone else that does value and use Bitcoin or whatnot, right? And so you have that good behavior that the system has defined, but it's incentivized, and then therefore you allow for the system to kind of continue moving, right? There's like a flywheel for that. Trying to rely on altruism to kind of have a robust and resilient network is very difficult, and you run into these like dilemma, like prisoner's dilemma, right? Like where everyone has to cooperate. If one person acts selfish, then kind of the system breaks down. But at least you can guarantee, right? People are selfish, and economically and rationally it'll make sense. So I think that's also, I just want to give support for how speculation is very important to kind of provide more resilient and efficient markets to get certain good behavior done, right? So that's my long spiel on right. The innovation space is something that constantly pushes forward our industry. It's not just accounting machines, right? There's so much more that can be done on all parts of the of our society. That, right? It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for us. I let the cat out. Okay, she's getting a little crazy. And come here. Oh, no, go. I hear my mother-in-law came, so she's getting. Sorry for that. It's just very natural. It's really good point, and like I think it even like I didn't see the fact that you have to actually incentivize. I saw this as the like very stupid thing, like with what helium was doing. And recently I actually saw it's like with the technology and with the blockchain, it's essentially like race to the bottom. And I would assume that the like blockchains will start like really incentivizing behavior just to get the other valuable things out of there. um and it would go even like with very um simple things like even like with education, like pushing people into crypto. uh Sorry, wait. Oh, no, no. Oh, no. Oh, oh. Sorry. The knob? Or no?
Hello, chat. Ask me spicy questions.
Yeah, please ask questions for 2 minutes. It's my mother-in-law. I'm so sorry, guys. I just She wants some help, and we cannot really communicate. Um,
All good.
huh?
Joke? I should know more
I'm
joke.
coming back in a moment. Okay. Oh,
That's a good joke.
man, so sorry, so sorry, so sorry, so
I need
sorry.
to
I
I need
will
to know
practice
more
that.
jokes to have on hand to tell people.
So sorry. Like I cannot tell my
Yay, merge.
mother-in-law who doesn't speak English.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm busy. She doesn't know, and she wanted me to choose the channel 81 in the TV for her.
I didn't
So
sleep
sorry for
much
this.
last night because of the merge. Stayed up for that.
Ah, yeah. Well, shit. Sorry, Daniel, for it.
No worries.
It's not
Let's
professional.
connect Ethereum to Cosmos through IBC. We can do
But
it.
I wanted to, like with the incentives, like
Hmm.
I do want to also like understand, like because I don't think the carbon credits are like essentially the end game here. I think everyone is paying attention to carbon credits, but it's not really solution to the problem, because it seems like and I would like to understand like exactly how it works, but because there's few things that I have problem with it. We use a lot of energy, right? We do use a lot of energy. A lot of this energy is not the green energy, how we would say, and the carbon credits would help us to manage that, right? But it feels like it's the treatment of the problem, like why we don't try to create the better and more efficient energy systems.
Yeah, you're talking
How?
about that and also reductions. Yeah, carbon credits are not the only solution to the broader problem,
Mhm,
as I meant. Like, there's an umbrella, and there's carbon credits are one part,
mhm,
but at least it's one part that we can innovate on and make a bit better and create flywheels. But there's a lot of other parts that must be um, taken care of. Uh, and I think we're going to continue having those conversations in the working group, and then provided.
mhm.
Uh, I actually have to jump onto another call, but I'm more than happy to talk about the
Oh,
climate ecosystem. it would be
Or,
it'd be great.
already you have to go. Just
Yeah, yeah. I have a.
yeah, plan to keep going with you for like 1 more hour. You know,
Oh man.
you no time at all.
Yeah, this is a. I yeah. This is yeah. I don't think I can. Yeah, I'm happy to
Look,
come back on another time, but
yeah, you have to, you know, like, because I do have
yeah,
questions. How do you make the person who makes few thousand a month or even less care about the, you know, ecology and renewable energies, carbon credits, you know, what we can disrupt, like disturbed, about Ethereum merge, who's gonna dominate that, coming to Cosmos, and etc. But I cannot keep long. I guess if you have important call, it was pleasure to meet you. You know, and
always.
thank you.
Yeah,
And we will continue. So like, and enjoy the rest of your day. Your calls. I do hope it's not our last meeting. There's other stuff, like, you know, I saw you might be involved in the subDAO on Juno. So there's a lot of stuff to discuss. Yeah.
thanks so much, Don.
No, no worries.
Or Austin, sorry. Um, we we
Whatever is
definitely
easier.
need to have another call together.
Yeah, yeah, no
I
worries.
think we
Take
will
care.
be seeing a lot more of each other soon.
Hopefully, I'm just small YouTuber, and I'm trying to just chat to people. So like, I'm, you know, like,
I
it
think your
happens. I'm
voice
like,
is well
hmm?
known in the ecosystem, and people do listen to you. So
Hmm.
it's a I don't
I
I wouldn't like minimize your influence as just being small. I think people's it's
Yeah,
important to have that.
thank you. Yeah, I- I'm in quite fortunate position that suddenly, like, you know, like, this allowed me to talk to more and more people, and they
Yeah,
actually are able to come to chat to me, and I can kind of, well, I'm curious person, so like, I like to ask questions, you know, and learn more and have discussions, like, not only about the certain ecosystem, but like sometimes about the wider picture. So yeah, I hope we can speak again. Go to
yep,
another
yep.
call and do the
Maybe
important
I'll head over to Hong
call.
Kong someday, or
Oh, it
if
would be
you
nice. We
yep.
still have there is still the quarantine, three days of quarantine. It's strange place now, but um it's different, it's special, and I wish there would be more blockchain here, you know, like, because there is, I think, a lot of talent flew away. There is a lot of liquidity here, you know, the banks, HSBC, um, a lot of shadow banking going through here, I would believe. Like, I think Tether is related to Hong Kong somehow, and I would be not surprised if Tether is related to SBC via shadow banking, but I'm not gonna play conspiracy theories. But I know it's funded by shadow banking, and a
Put our
lot of these
tinfoil
main
hats on.
banks serve the shadow banking. So okay,
All right, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
yeah. Enjoy the rest of your
Bye,
day.
guys.
Thank you. Bye
Bye.
bye. So sorry guys, that was a little short. I did plan to, you know, I didn't know he has limited time. Um, if I would know, maybe I would jump to Juno. Like, you are most guys from Juno. Um, sorry for that run out. So my mother-in-law came home, and she struggled with the TV, and she started calling me, you know, and she had no idea I'm doing something. So and because I don't really speak Cantonese, I couldn't say I'm sorry, I'm busy here. Um, if you guys have some questions, you can ask. If not, I'm just gonna go away. And the cat, I should let the cat go before. I'm not gonna sleep well. Not professional Dawn. What's up, guys? How is it going? So, well, I do hope, like I'm pretty sure the Dan will come again. Gonna speak more. I saw he might be involved in the sub-DAO that will be responsible for the delegations. I'm not gonna validate Rebus. It's not something I would be interested. I don't want to validate thousands of chains. I would like to validate the chains that I feel good about and that I think could scale. So there is Stride, and because I think the Stride might be the largest liquid staking on Cosmos, regardless of what people say. So I'm gonna drop now, and I'm dropping video in 1 hour. Another video on Stride. Video number 300. Okay, guys, thank you for appearing here, and pleasure to serve you.